Three men attacked a Japanese female billionaire CEO in an alley. Black waitress's throw saved her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started with today's story. It all started on a dark, rainy night in downtown San Francisco, where the streets were slick with rain and the city's lights reflected off the wet pavement. The air was thick with the kind of damp chill that only a heavy storm could bring. Inside the Bayview Bistro, a luxurious restaurant that attracted some of the city's wealthiest residents, a private dinner was taking place. Seated at the corner table was a woman who seemed like she belonged to another world entirely. Kamiko Hayashi, a renowned Japanese billionaire CEO, sat in complete silence. Her presence alone commanded attention, but she was not the one making noise in the room. As she sipped her wine and observed the lively conversation around her, her thoughts were interrupted by the sounds of an argument just outside the restaurant's front door. Three men had appeared in the alley. They were tall, intimidating, and clearly up to no good. The situation escalated quickly when they saw Kamiko standing by the alley's corner. They thought she was an easy target, and one of the men stepped forward, clearly looking for trouble. They began shouting at her in an attempt to intimidate, pushing her back into the corner, their intentions clear. She tried to stand her ground, but she was outnumbered. As they got closer, her heart began to race. Kamiko knew that she was in danger, but there was no time to wait for help. At that moment, a young waitress, Naomi Brooks, was finishing her shift at the bistro. Naomi had worked at the restaurant for over a year, but she was no stranger to the darker side of life. Having grown up in a tough neighborhood, she knew how to stay calm under pressure. Naomi was cleaning up near the kitchen when she heard the commotion outside. Her instincts kicked in. She stepped quickly toward the alley door, silently slipping out into the storm. As Naomi peered through the window, she saw the three men closing in on Kamiko, their threats growing louder by the second. Naomi didn't think twice. She knew what she had to do. With swift precision, she grabbed a heavy kitchen pan from the nearby rack and hurled it with perfect accuracy toward one of the men who was holding a weapon. The pan struck him square in the chest, knocking him off balance. The other two men, startled and momentarily disoriented, hesitated just long enough for Naomi to make her move. In a blur of motion, she used the opportunity to shove Kamiko to safety, guiding her quickly toward the back of the restaurant, away from the attackers. The alleyway fell silent except for the sound of Naomi's quick footsteps as she ushered Kamiko to safety. The three men, momentarily stunned, regained their composure, but it was too late. Kamiko was already out of their reach, and Naomi had proven she wasn't the kind of person to back down from danger. As the storm continued to pour down, Naomi stood her ground, ready for whatever came next. The tension in the alley was palpable, but Naomi's bravery had already turned the situation around. Kamiko, breathing heavily, looked up at Naomi with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. The world outside continued to swirl with danger, but Naomi had just saved her life. Naomi didn't stop running until they reached the back of the restaurant. Her heart was pounding in her chest, the adrenaline from the encounter still coursing through her veins. She didn't look back, but she could feel Kamiko's eyes on her, the surprise and confusion in her gaze as Naomi led her through the kitchen. They slipped out the rear door into the alleyway that ran behind the building, and the storm continued to pour down, drenching them both in a sudden downpour. Naomi pushed open the back gate, guiding Kamiko through the narrow passage between two neighboring buildings. Neither of them said anything for a while. The only sound was the rain hitting the pavement and the rush of their footsteps. Naomi kept looking over her shoulder, ready for the men to come after them. But nothing came. Not yet. Kamiko, still breathing heavily, finally spoke. "You saved my life." Naomi turned to her, still keeping an eye on the alley. "It's nothing," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You were in trouble, and I did what I had to do." Kamiko studied her for a moment. She seemed to be trying to understand what had just happened. Naomi was just a waitress, a young woman who had barely a few dollars to her name. Yet in the heat of the moment, she had acted with a confidence that surprised even her. "I owe you." Kamiko said, her tone serious. Naomi shook her head. No, you don't, she replied, glancing at the street up ahead. But you should get to safety. I can't stay here for long. Kamiko nodded and then paused, looking at Naomi with something between gratitude and disbelief. You're not just any waitress, are you? Naomi gave a small, uneasy smile. No, I guess I'm not. Kamiko didn't push it, but Naomi could see the wheels turning in her head. It was clear that Kamiko wasn't used to this kind of interaction. Most people who crossed her path were either in awe of her wealth or afraid to approach her. But Naomi had faced danger before. She wasn't impressed by money, and she wasn't afraid of wealthy, entitled people. She'd worked her whole life for the little she had, and no amount of money could change that. They reached the street, and Naomi looked both ways. The alley behind them remained quiet, but she didn't trust the silence. You should go to a safe place, Naomi said, her voice more urgent now. I can't help you any more than I already have. Kamiko seemed to hesitate for a moment. Then, with a deep breath, she nodded. You're right. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Naomi couldn't hear the conversation, but it was clear Kamiko was arranging something. Within minutes, a black SUV pulled up at the curb. Kamiko turned to Naomi. This is for you, she said, reaching into her pocket and pulling out a card. Call me when you can. I want to make sure you're okay. Naomi hesitated, glancing at the sleek car. She wasn't sure what to make of the offer, but she couldn't turn it down. She took the card, and Kamiko gave her a final nod before getting into the vehicle. As the SUV drove off, Naomi stood there for a moment, watching it disappear into the storm. She was still processing everything that had just happened. The adrenaline was wearing off, but the reality of the situation was starting to settle in. She'd just saved a billionaire CEO's life. She'd acted without thinking, without fear, and now she had a card in her hand that could change everything. But she wasn't sure she wanted her life to change that way. Naomi had always been cautious, always careful not to get too involved with the wealthy world that surrounded her. But tonight, something was different. Maybe it was the rain, the storm, or maybe it was just the fact that she couldn't stand by and watch someone be hurt when she had the power to stop it. Naomi took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Her life had just taken an unexpected turn, and she was about to find out just how much one moment could change everything. Naomi woke up the next morning to the sound of her phone vibrating on the small table by the window. The storm had passed, and the streets of San Francisco had returned to their usual hustle, but Naomi felt a sense of unease. She had spent the night tossing and turning, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Her eyes were still heavy from lack of sleep as she reached for the phone, unsure of what to expect. It was a message from an unknown number, but the message was clear. This is Kamiko Hayashi. I want to talk. Can you meet me at the Grandview Tower today at 3 p.m.? I will send a car to pick you up. Naomi stared at the screen for a long moment. She wasn't sure what to think. She hadn't expected Kamiko to reach out so soon, but she also couldn't deny the feeling that something bigger was happening here. Naomi knew she couldn't just ignore this. This wasn't just about saving a life anymore. It was about the unexpected ripple effect that one single action could cause. She'd never been one for flashy opportunities, but this wasn't just any opportunity. This was her chance to change everything. As she stood up and stretched, she glanced out of her apartment window at the city below. It seemed so much bigger now, the possibilities stretching out before her like the horizon. At the same time, it all felt overwhelming. She had always been a fighter, but she had never been thrust into a world like this, a world where her actions could alter the course of a billionaire's life. She grabbed a quick shower, changed into the best clothes she had, which still felt too casual for a place like Grandview Tower. She knew she didn't belong in a high-rise office like that, but what other choice did she have? She needed answers. By the time the car pulled up outside her building, it was already 2:45 p.m., giving her just enough time to gather herself before the meeting. The car was sleek, black, and incredibly quiet. The driver didn't say a word as Naomi slid into the back seat, her nerves beginning to settle into a tense calm. The drive took her across town, through the heart of the city's financial district. She tried to ignore the sense of being out of place as the car rolled to a stop in front of the massive, glass-encased tower. It looked like a building that belonged to people who lived in another world entirely. She took a deep breath, steadying herself before stepping out of the car. Inside, the building felt like a maze of chrome and glass, every surface gleaming in the harsh artificial light. Naomi followed the receptionist's directions to the elevator, feeling the weight of every step. As she rode up, the floor seemed to get higher, and the view from the elevator was breathtaking. The city sprawled below her, a sea of concrete, steel, and glass. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a man in a suit who didn't say much. He simply gestured for her to follow him down a long hallway lined with framed art and sleek furniture. At the end of the hallway was a door that opened into a spacious office, one that took her breath away. The walls were lined with bookshelves, the floor covered in a plush, dark carpet. At the far end of the room, behind a massive desk, sat Kamiko. She was dressed in a sharp suit, her silver hair neatly styled, her expression unreadable. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Naomi couldn't help but feel like she was out of her depth, but she didn't let it show. Kamiko stood up and motioned for her to sit across from her. "I wanted to thank you properly," Kamiko said, her voice calm but firm. "What you did last night saved my life. I won't forget that." Naomi nodded, unsure of how to respond. "You don't owe me anything," she said quietly. Kamiko smiled slightly, the faintest hint of respect in her eyes. "I'm not here to just thank you," Kamiko said, her tone changing. "I need someone like you on my team." Naomi blinked, not sure if she'd heard correctly. "I don't understand," she said slowly. Kamiko leaned forward, her gaze intense. "I've built a successful company, but I know that sometimes the real power lies with people who see things differently. You did what no one else would. You acted when others stood by. I need that kind of loyalty, that kind of strength in my company." Naomi didn't know what to say. She had never expected an offer like this in a million years. "You want me to work for you?" she asked, still processing the words. Kamiko nodded. "Not just any job. I want you to be part of something bigger. A position that will let you use your instincts, your ability to see through the surface, and help me build something that goes beyond profit." Naomi sat in silence, the weight of Kamiko's words sinking in. She had always dreamed of something more, something bigger than just surviving from day to day. But could she really trust someone like Kamiko? Could she trust this offer? Or was it just another game of the powerful using the weak for their own gain? Kamiko seemed to read her mind. "I know this is a lot to take in, Naomi, but you proved last night that you have what it takes. I'm offering you a chance to change your life, to change the world, and I think you're ready." Naomi looked at Kamiko, her mind racing. She had always played it safe, always been the quiet observer in the background. But this was different. This was her chance to step into the spotlight. "I'll think about it," Naomi said finally, the words leaving her mouth before she could stop them. Kamiko smiled again, her eyes glinting with something unreadable. "Take all the time you need," she said, her voice softening. "But don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come around every day." Naomi nodded, rising from her seat. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was ready to face it head-on. Naomi spent the next few days in a whirlwind of thoughts. Kamiko's offer lingered in her mind, making it hard to focus on anything else. The idea of working for one of the most powerful CEOs in the world was tempting, but Naomi wasn't the type of person to rush into anything. She had always been careful, cautious, especially when it came to trusting the rich and powerful. But there was something different about Kamiko. Something that made Naomi believe she wasn't just being used for her skills, but rather being given an opportunity to prove herself in a world that had always seemed out of reach. On the fourth day after the meeting, Naomi received a follow-up message from Kamiko, asking her to come to the Grandview Tower again. This time, it wasn't just to talk, it was to make a decision. Naomi stood in front of the building later that afternoon, her heart racing. As she walked through the lobby, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was no longer just a place of work. It was a symbol of everything she had ever wanted. When the elevator doors opened, she was greeted by the same man from before. This time, he led her to a different office, one even more impressive than the last. The space was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that gave a panoramic view of the city. Kamiko was already there, standing by the window, looking out over the skyline. Naomi hesitated for a moment, taking in the view. It was breathtaking. "You're here," Kamiko said, turning toward her with a smile. "I'm glad you came." Naomi nodded, still unsure of how to respond. Kamiko motioned for her to sit. I've been thinking a lot about what you did for me, Kamiko continued. You didn't hesitate. You didn't back down. I need someone who can think on their feet, someone who isn't afraid to make tough decisions. Someone like you. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. She had never been one for the spotlight, and yet, here she was, being offered a chance to make her mark. I've been offered jobs before, Naomi said slowly, but they were never like this. This is different. Kamiko's expression softened. I know. That's why I'm offering you this opportunity. I'm not offering you a job, Naomi. I'm offering you a chance to change the direction of your life. Naomi sat quietly for a moment, thinking about everything she had been through. She had spent years working tirelessly just to make ends meet, and now, she was being offered a chance to do something more, something that could change her life forever. Kamiko didn't rush her. She simply watched, waiting for Naomi to process it all. Finally, Naomi spoke. I don't know what the future holds, Kamiko, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Kamiko smiled, her eyes lighting up with satisfaction. Good. That's all I needed to hear. She stood up and extended her hand. Naomi took it, the firm grip reassuring her that this wasn't just a fleeting offer. Kamiko wasn't just making promises. She was making a commitment. As Naomi left the office that day, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She wasn't just another waitress anymore. She was part of something bigger now, something that could change not only her life, but also the lives of those around her. Kamiko had seen something in her, something Naomi hadn't fully recognized in herself. And now, Naomi was ready to prove that she was more than just a survivor. She was a force to be reckoned with. The rest of the day passed in a blur as Naomi made her way home. But as the evening wore on, the excitement started to fade, replaced by a deep sense of uncertainty. Was she really ready for this new life? Could she handle the pressure of working with someone like Kamiko? The answers wouldn't come easy. Naomi knew that. But she also knew she couldn't turn back now. She had made her choice. And now, she had to see it through. Naomi arrived at the Grandview Tower the following Monday, her heart racing in a way that felt both exciting and terrifying. She had spent the weekend thinking about her decision, weighing the risks and rewards. Could she really work for someone like Kamiko Hayashi? Could she thrive in a world where every move felt like it was under a microscope? But there was no turning back now. She had made her choice, and now it was time to face the consequences. As she stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance of the building, Naomi felt a sense of determination. She had come too far to back down now. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, and she wasn't about to let it slip away. The moment she entered the lobby, she was greeted by a receptionist who led her to an elevator. Naomi took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. The doors closed, and the elevator ascended quickly. The higher the elevator went, the more her stomach churned. By the time the doors opened on the top floor, Naomi felt like she had stepped into another world entirely. The office was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that gave a breathtaking view of the city. Kamiko was already there, sitting behind a large desk, looking every bit the powerful soul Naomi had come to admire. I'm glad you're here, Kamiko said, looking up from a stack of papers. Her tone was warm but professional. Please, take a seat. Naomi sat down across from her, still trying to calm the racing thoughts in her mind. Kamiko leaned forward, her gaze focused on Naomi. We have a lot to do, and I think you'll be perfect for the role I have in mind. Naomi nodded, waiting for her to continue. Kamiko's eyes sparkled with purpose as she spoke. I need someone who can see through the surface, someone who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo. I've built this company on innovation and risk-taking, and I want you to bring that same energy. Naomi was taken aback. She had always been cautious, not someone who typically took big risks. But Kamiko wasn't asking her to be someone else. She was asking her to use the strengths she already had. What exactly would I be doing? Naomi asked, trying to wrap her mind around the new role. Kamiko smiled, clearly pleased with Naomi's question. You'll be working closely with me, helping to identify new opportunities and ways we can expand. But it won't be easy. You'll need to think on your feet, adapt quickly, and most importantly, you'll need to stay true to your instincts. Naomi sat back in her chair, processing everything Kamiko had just said. This wasn't just about a job. It was about building something meaningful, something that could change her life forever. You're not asking for a lot, are you? Naomi said with a slight smile. Kamiko's eyes twinkled with a mixture of amusement and admiration. I don't expect anything less from someone who saved my life. Naomi's smile faltered for a moment. The weight of that night, the danger, the adrenaline, came rushing back. But it also reminded her why she was here. Kamiko had seen something in her that others hadn't. She wasn't just a waitress. She was someone capable of stepping up when it mattered most. Kamiko stood up, signaling the end of their meeting. I know this is a big decision for you, Naomi. Take your time. But don't wait too long. I'll be expecting you to give me your answer by the end of the week. Naomi stood up, extending her hand. Thank you, Kamiko, she said sincerely, for believing in me. Kamiko shook her hand, her grip firm. It's not about believing in you, Naomi. It's about seeing what you're capable of. And I know you're capable of great things. As Naomi left the office that day, she felt a shift within herself. She was no longer just a part of the background. She was stepping into a world where her decisions, her actions, would matter. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. This was her chance to prove herself, not just to Kamiko, but to herself. She had come this far, and now she was ready for whatever came next. The days following Naomi's meeting with Kamiko passed in a blur of anticipation and doubt. She had given her answer, agreeing to take on the challenge. But with each passing hour, the weight of the decision grew heavier. Naomi knew this wasn't just about a job. It was about entering a world she had never fully understood, a world where power, wealth, and ambition often collided in ways that left people like her feeling invisible. But she had made a promise to herself. She wasn't going to be invisible anymore. On her first official day at Kamiko's company, Naomi was led into a sleek, modern office that overlooked the bustling streets of downtown San Francisco. She was introduced to the team, an eclectic mix of tech experts, financial analysts, and creative minds who all seemed to have one thing in common. They were all highly accomplished, and most of them had never had to struggle a day in their lives. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Naomi had spent years working 2 jobs, scraping by to make ends meet. Yet here she was, surrounded by people who lived in a world she could only dream of. As she sat down at her desk, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Kamiko, meeting at 1 p.m. Be ready to present your ideas. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. She had barely gotten settled, and now she was being asked to present her ideas? She didn't even know where to begin. But there was no time for hesitation. She spent the next few hours gathering her thoughts, researching, and preparing for what she knew would be a pivotal moment in her career. At 12:45 p.m., Naomi stood in front of the conference room door, her palms sweating. This was it. This was the moment that would either make or break her. She took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and walked inside. Kamiko was already seated at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. The room fell silent as Naomi took her place at the front. She could feel the eyes of the team on her, waiting to see what she would do. Naomi cleared her throat, her mind racing. I've been thinking a lot about how we can break into new markets, she began, her voice steady despite the nerves threatening to overtake her. We've built a strong foundation in the tech sector, but I think we're missing an opportunity in underserved communities. We need to think outside of the box and reach people who don't typically have access to the kind of innovations we offer. The room was silent, but Naomi could feel the tension in the air. She wasn't sure if they were surprised by her suggestion or just waiting to see where she would go with it. Kamiko didn't say anything at first, but Naomi noticed the slight tilt of her head. It was as if she was waiting for Naomi to prove herself. And Naomi wasn't about to back down now. She continued, we have the ability to bring real change to these communities, not just by offering products, but by offering solutions that improve lives. Imagine a partnership with schools, nonprofits, or even government programs that focus on education and technology access. We could give people the tools they need to succeed, and in turn, we create a new market that's loyal and invested in what we do. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Naomi's heart was pounding in her chest, but she didn't dare look away from Kamiko's eyes. Finally, Kamiko spoke. Interesting, she said, her voice calm but measured. What else do you have? Naomi didn't expect the question, but it was the kind of challenge she had been hoping for. I think we need to prioritize sustainability, Naomi said, her confidence growing. We're in a time when consumers are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of the products they use. If we can incorporate sustainable practices into our products, we not only align ourselves with a growing movement, but also create long-term value for the company. The team around the table exchanged glances, and Naomi could tell that she was starting to make an impact. Kamiko's eyes softened, just a little, and Naomi felt a surge of hope. She wasn't just being listened to. She was being heard. After the meeting, Kamiko pulled Naomi aside. "You did well," she said, her tone warm. "You took a risk, and it paid off." Naomi's heart skipped a beat. Kamiko wasn't one to hand out praise lightly. "Thank you," Naomi replied, her voice steady. Kamiko smiled. "This is just the beginning, Naomi. You have a long way to go, but I believe in you." As Naomi left the conference room, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. She had stepped up, put herself out there, and shown that she belonged. This was only the beginning, and Naomi was ready to take on whatever came next. Naomi had barely settled into her new role when things started moving faster than she could have imagined. The meetings came one after the other, each one pushing her further into the world she had stepped into so bravely. Kamiko's faith in her was clear, and Naomi had no intention of letting her down. Kamiko had given her a few small projects to work on, evaluating new markets, overseeing some of the company's social responsibility initiatives, and developing strategies to boost the company's outreach to underserved communities. These were all high-stakes tasks, and Naomi had to learn quickly. She spent long hours reading through reports, analyzing data, and refining strategies. At times, she felt overwhelmed, but there was something about the work that drove her forward. She had never felt more alive than when she was working alongside Kamiko's team, collaborating with some of the brightest minds in the business world. It was a far cry from the quiet, unnoticed waitress she used to be. A few weeks into her new role, Kamiko called her into her office. Naomi knocked lightly before entering, the sharp scent of freshly brewed coffee in the air as she walked into the sleek, glass-walled room. Kamiko sat behind her desk, papers neatly stacked and a tablet in her hand. Her gaze lifted as Naomi stepped in, and a small, approving smile crossed her face. "Come in, Naomi. I wanted to talk to you about something important," Kamiko said, motioning for her to take a seat. Naomi sat down, suddenly aware of how much more comfortable she had become in this world. "I've been watching your progress," Kamiko continued. "You've handled everything I've given you with impressive skill and confidence. But now I want to test you." Naomi's heart raced. "Test me." Kamiko's smile remained steady. "Yes, we have an upcoming opportunity to secure a major partnership, and I want you to lead the negotiation." Naomi blinked. Lead the negotiation? She wasn't sure if she was ready for something of that magnitude. "Kamiko, are you sure? I mean, this is a huge deal. I've never handled anything like this before," she said, her voice laced with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Kamiko's gaze didn't waver. "You've done everything I asked of you so far, Naomi. I know you're ready for this." Kamiko paused, her tone turning more serious. "This partnership could change the direction of the company. It's not just about securing a deal. It's about setting the tone for the future. I'm counting on you to think strategically, make tough calls, and get this deal done." Naomi took a deep breath. She could feel the weight of the responsibility settling over her, but she wasn't going to back down. Not now. She had come too far. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady, despite the butterflies in her stomach. Kamiko nodded, the look of approval in her eyes telling Naomi that this was more than just a test. It was a pivotal moment in her career. "I know you will," Kamiko said. "I'll give you all the information you need to prepare. But remember, this isn't just about what we stand to gain from this partnership. It's about what we can offer the other side. If we can show them that we have something valuable to offer, something that aligns with their goals, we'll win them over." Naomi left Kamiko's office with a new sense of purpose. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment when everything she had learned and worked for would come together. Over the next few days, Naomi worked tirelessly, meeting with various departments to gather information and get the lay of the land. She studied the potential partners' company, their goals, their previous partnerships. The more she dug, the more confident she became that this was something she could handle. The negotiation meeting arrived quickly. Naomi walked into the conference room, her nerves still there, but masked by the confidence she had been building. Kamiko, along with several key team members, were seated at the table, ready to watch Naomi take the lead. Across from them sat the potential partner, a group of high-level executives who were known for being tough negotiators. Naomi took a deep breath, gathered her thoughts, and started the presentation. She spoke clearly and confidently, presenting the company's strengths and what they could bring to the table. She emphasized the value of collaboration, focusing not only on the financial benefits, but also on the long-term impact they could create together. As she spoke, she noticed Kamiko watching her closely, an approving smile on her face. Naomi's words seemed to be resonating with the potential partner, and she could see them beginning to soften, their initial skepticism giving way to interest. The meeting stretched on for hours, but Naomi held her ground, answering questions, addressing concerns, and remaining calm under pressure. Finally, the deal was struck. The potential partner agreed to the terms, and Naomi had sealed the deal. As the meeting came to an end and the executives stood to shake hands, Naomi felt a rush of relief and triumph. Kamiko approached her, her face breaking into a proud smile. "Well done, Naomi," she said. "You just secured one of the biggest deals in the company's history." Naomi couldn't help but smile. It had been a hard-fought battle, but she had done it. She had proven to herself, and to Kamiko, that she belonged in this world. The journey wasn't over. But for the first time, Naomi felt like she was finally on the path to something bigger than she had ever imagined. The days after the big deal passed in a blur, but Naomi couldn't shake the feeling of accomplishment that stayed with her. The contract had been signed, the deal finalized, and everything seemed to be falling into place. Kamiko was pleased with her performance, but there was still much to do. Naomi knew that this success was just the beginning. She had proven her worth, but there was more to be done, more challenges to overcome. It wasn't long before Kamiko called her into her office again. This time, the atmosphere was different. Naomi wasn't sure whether it was the way Kamiko was looking at her or the silence that hung in the air, but something felt like it was about to change. As Naomi entered the office, Kamiko stood up, the faintest trace of a smile on her lips. "You've done well, Naomi," Kamiko said, her voice calm but full of approval. "You've proven yourself in ways I didn't expect, and I'm proud of what you've accomplished. But now, I need you to do something bigger." Naomi raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. "Bigger?" Kamiko nodded. "I want you to take the lead on a new project. This will be our most ambitious initiative yet. We're looking to expand internationally, and I need someone who can navigate the complexities of different markets. I want you to lead the team." Naomi felt a rush of excitement mixed with apprehension. The responsibility was overwhelming, but she had faced bigger challenges before. She wasn't going to back down now. "I'm ready," Naomi replied, her voice steady despite the storm of thoughts in her mind. Kamiko smiled, her eyes gleaming with confidence in Naomi. "I know you are. This is a big leap, Naomi, but I believe in you. I know you have what it takes." Naomi took a deep breath, the weight of Kamiko's words sinking in. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. It never was. But she had learned that the hardest challenges were the ones that shaped her the most. Over the next few weeks, Naomi threw herself into the new project with determination. She spent countless hours researching international markets, learning about the cultural differences, and understanding the business practices of countries across the globe. She knew that if she wanted to succeed, she had to adapt quickly and think strategically. Kamiko's faith in her had given her the confidence to push forward, and she was determined to make this opportunity count. Naomi started working closely with a team of experts from different departments, each one bringing their own knowledge and expertise to the table. She was no longer just a new hire. She had earned the respect of her colleagues, and her leadership was beginning to shine through. As the team worked together, Naomi could feel the pressure building. The stakes were higher now, and the expectations were even greater. But with each challenge that came her way, Naomi faced it head-on, her confidence growing with each small victory. One evening, after a long day of meetings and strategy sessions, Naomi sat alone in her office, reviewing the latest reports. She had a few hours left before the team meeting the next day, and she used the time to gather her thoughts. As she looked out of her office window, the city lights shining brightly below, Naomi felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had come so far from where she started. From a waitress working 2 jobs just to survive, to leading a major international expansion project for one of the most successful CEOs in the world. She had proven that she was more than just her circumstances. She was capable of so much more. The next day, Naomi stood before her team, ready to present the plan they had been working on for weeks. The room was filled with eager eyes, all waiting for her to deliver. Naomi took a deep breath and began. She spoke with clarity, her words confident and steady. She outlined the plan in detail, showing the team how they would tackle each market, the strategies they would use, and how they would overcome any obstacles that might come their way. As she spoke, Naomi could see the team nodding, their trust in her growing. They knew she was the right person for the job. When the presentation was over, there was a brief silence. Then Kamiko stood up, her face breaking into a proud smile. "This is exactly what we needed, Naomi," she said. "You've taken charge, you've thought of everything. And you've proven once again that you are ready for anything." Naomi felt a rush of pride at Kamiko's words, but she also knew that this was just the beginning. The project was huge, and there was still a long road ahead. But Naomi was no longer the woman who had walked into Kamiko's office months ago, unsure of herself and uncertain of her place. She was a leader now, and nothing would stop her from achieving the success she had worked so hard for. The future was bright, and Naomi was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. As Naomi stood in the conference room, looking at the team around her, she could feel the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about leading a team or executing a strategy anymore. This was about everything she had worked for. Kamiko's faith in her had pushed her to rise, and Naomi had surpassed even her own expectations. The international expansion project was moving forward, and the team was solid behind her. The sleepless nights, the intense negotiations, the hours spent gathering information, it was all paying off. The plan they had built together was starting to come to life. The partnerships were being finalized, and new markets were opening up. Kamiko had been right. This was her moment to shine, and Naomi wasn't going to waste it. As the weeks passed, Naomi began to see her role evolve. What started as just a small, pivotal project became something much bigger. She was no longer just executing a plan. She was shaping the future of the company. Kamiko gave her more and more responsibility, slowly pulling her into the decision-making process. Naomi was starting to feel like a true part of the leadership team. The respect she had earned from her colleagues, the trust from Kamiko, and the results of their work spoke for themselves. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Every decision Naomi made carried weight, and the pressure was mounting. The stakes were high, and there were moments when Naomi questioned herself. Was she really ready for this level of responsibility? But every time she doubted herself, she reminded herself of where she had come from. From a waitress in a bustling city to a leader driving change in a billion-dollar company, Naomi had already proven that she was capable of more than anyone had expected. Kamiko had seen it in her from the start, and now Naomi was seeing it in herself. As Naomi sat at her desk late one night, reviewing the latest developments in the project, Kamiko walked in. Her presence was always commanding, but there was something different about her demeanor tonight. Kamiko stood by the window for a moment, looking out at the city. "You've done an incredible job, Naomi," Kamiko said finally, turning to face her. "I knew I saw something in you." Naomi smiled, though she felt a rush of emotion. This was it, the moment that she had been working toward. She had earned Kamiko's respect, and more importantly, she had earned her own. "Thank you, Kamiko. I couldn't have done it without the team, and without you giving me the chance," Naomi replied, her voice steady. Kamiko smiled, her eyes softening. "You didn't need anyone to give you a chance, Naomi. You created your own. You've proven you're a leader, and not just any leader, a visionary. That's what I was looking for." Naomi felt a warmth in her chest at Kamiko's words. It was everything she had hoped for, everything she had dreamed of when she had first walked into Kamiko's office all those months ago. But even as the praise washed over her, Naomi knew there was still more to be done. There was always more. The company was on the verge of even greater things, and Naomi was determined to make sure that she continued to be a driving force behind its success. Kamiko gave her one last look, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "You're ready, Naomi. Ready for anything. Keep pushing. Keep leading. The future is yours." As Kamiko left the room, Naomi sat back in her chair, letting the words sink in. It had been a long journey to get here, and there had been moments of doubt, moments where the odds seemed insurmountable. But Naomi had never stopped. She had never given up. Now, standing on the edge of a future she had once only dreamed of, Naomi realized something. She wasn't just ready for this. She was made for it. The world was changing, and she was going to be a part of that change. No longer just the girl who served drinks, she had become a force in her own right. And as she looked out the window at the city below, Naomi knew that she had only just begun. This inspiring tale unfolds as a young woman named Naomi rises from humble beginnings to become a powerful force in the business world. Starting out as a waitress, Naomi's life takes a dramatic turn when she steps up to protect a billionaire CEO, Kamiko Hayashi, in a life-threatening situation. Little did Naomi know, this black story would change the course of her life forever. As she navigates the world of high-powered business, she proves that even those who are often overlooked have the strength to lead and inspire. With Kamiko's support, Naomi takes on increasingly complex projects, showing that determination and grit can break through any barrier. This black story highlights Naomi's growth as she takes on major responsibilities, from managing international business expansions to securing game-changing partnerships. Through her hard work and resilience, she earns respect and trust from the very people who once underestimated her. Kamiko sees Naomi's potential, offering her opportunities to prove that leadership is not defined by wealth or status, but by the courage to take bold risks. As the challenges grow, so does Naomi's confidence, and the black story of her journey continues to inspire others. In the end, Naomi not only becomes a key player in her company's success, but also finds her true calling, reminding us all that black stories have the power to change the world. Naomi's story is a testament to the strength and determination within all of us, especially those who rise above adversity. This black story is one of triumph, resilience, and the unshakable belief that with the right mindset, anyone can overcome obstacles and create their own future.